can't like me too much. I would say he doesn't like me too much. Hey, did you see what happened with the FBI today? They caught them cold. Comey either has the worst memory in history. Did you see? I don't remember that. Did you spy on President Trump's campaign? Gee, I don't remember that. Did you go for a coup? Did you go for a coup? I don't remember. I know. I'll tell you, we caught him cold. It's about time that something happens, okay? It's about time that something happens. It's enough. We got plenty of information on these crooks. Bunch of crooks. Thing like that's never happened in the history of our country, and it's about time that something happens.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a look at the latest new Q posts, and they expose everything you need to know about the Comey insurrection, which is happening, where his family members are now actually working the entire Ghislaine Maxwell case. They've been involved with the Epstein case, and there is so much more we're going to dive into in this episode. Plus, you're going to want to stick around because bombshells coming out of Chinese media saying that they have hard drives containing evidence about Hunter Biden and crimes against children. We're going to look at that, plus a whole lot more, so stick around and check it out. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm your host, Craig. As you know, I always encourage you guys to come here, hit that subscribe button, also hit that like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. Also, stick around to the end where we do our segment, God's Grace is Greater. Today, we're reading out of the book of Romans in the first chapter, and we're talking about what it means to have God's wrath revealed to you and what that looks like, especially against those sinners. And it's going to make a lot of sense, I guess, given the evil that we see in this world today. And it's going to give you a lot of clarity on how to know what's good and what's evil. And I really want to share this verse with you. It's going to be really life-changing in my opinion. So I hope you guys stick around to the end for that. But as always, before we get into that, we go over the Q board. 4793 is where we left off. And today we have bombshell stories. I mean, I'm talking bigger than big. Now, some of them you may have to take with a grain of salt because they're so fresh. They're so new. They talk about Chinese hard drives that have been held by the CCP, I guess, that were a part of that $1 billion deal with Hunter Biden that may contain evidence of him involved with some nefarious things. And you really have to take that with a grain of salt because this is just breaking. And we don't know if that is a part of the October surprise or if it's just, another disinformation campaign. But with that, we're going to get into that, plus the latest Q posts, which talk about the Comey connection to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and how now the son-in-law of James Comey is involved with overseeing the Ghislaine Maxwell case and a whole bunch of other stuff that you guys need to know to be informed. But before we get into the latest Q post, I just want to take a second and talk about Touchstone Essentials, because they're helping obviously with this channel. When you go get their products using the link in the description, you're helping support this channel, and these products are great. So the one I want to focus on today, though, is the super green juice, because the zeolite detoxifier, which we've already covered here, is great. I take that every day. It makes me feel awesome. The CBD oil, it's great for at nighttime when you want to relax, but the super green juice to me is the game changer more than anything else in my life recently, is because I don't drink coffee, and a lot of people drink coffee, and I'm not a big coffee guy, but I know some people can't get up in the morning without having a cup of coffee. So even if you want to supplement your coffee with this, I get it. But for me, I get up every morning and I have a big glass of this super green juice, and it gives me 10 times the amount of energy I've ever had from a cup of coffee without the crash from the caffeine. And it's so clean. It's so pure. Plus, if you sign up for the auto ship, you'll get 15% off. So give it a shot. Check out the link in the description. These products are great, though. I'm not just putting stuff out there to put it out there. I'm putting stuff out there that I use, that I like. So check out their products. This is Touchstone Essentials. Use the link in the description and check it out today. And I know you guys aren't going to be disappointed. But with that, we get into the latest Q post. Now, here we are. We're at 4794, and we talk about this Federalist article that came out. If you guys watched Tucker Carlson tonight, which I do, and I've even tweeted out. I tweeted out last night during the debate. I was so upset because, I literally turned on the debate to watch President Trump on Fox News with Joe Biden and the whole debate coverage. And the pre-debate coverage that interrupted Tucker Carlson's show literally included Donna Brazile. The same woman who previously worked for CNN and leaked the debate questions to Hillary Clinton. And I just thought to myself, why do I watch this disgusting network where it's run by a bunch of globalists, the same criminals or let's just say cohorts to the criminals who have been involved in just deceiving the American people wholesale for who knows how long. The same people that put people like Shepard Smith and Neil Cavuto and all these other globalist, people and Democrat liberals. They want to say fair and balanced, but at the end of the day, it would be fair and balanced if all of Fox News was conservative, considering that every other news organization in this country, as far as mainstream goes, is 100% liberal. So like Juan Williams and all this stuff, I could go down the list, right? And you guys probably feel the same way. But Sean Davis came on Tucker Carlson's show tonight to talk about Gina Haspel and the CIA. And what he was specifically referring to was the fact that Gina Haspel has been involved in blocking declassification of the remaining Russiagate documents. Now, why is an interesting question. She was actively working for the CIA under John Brennan as she was the station chief in London, which would make you think to yourself, okay, Crossfire Hurricane, they went to London, they were doing some nefarious things over there with GCHQ, which is the British equivalent of the CIA. And you have to ask yourself a few very important questions when you look at this. Gina Haspel, why is she personally blocking the declassification of these documents that detail the corruption at the highest levels of the intelligence community? I think it's very simple. They know that it will destroy their whole infrastructure, right? All these people, their assets protect assets, and they protect each other, and they think, oh, it's great that we have this, standing agreement that we won't talk about each other's misdeeds, and we'll just cover it up so that we can continue to prop up this organization of, it's a cartel really of intelligence that is called the Central Intelligence in our country. But when you read through this article and you have the clip from the actual show here, which the quote is this: so many of the people blocking these documents are likely implicated by them. That's something you have to remember. And they're career bureaucrats whose careers may be destroyed, but from the facts within them. So they're all protecting each other. So obviously the problem goes far deeper than anybody could really imagine. But Q goes on to say, some believe the protection of agency is what matters most. Some believe the declassification, public exposure of truth, and rebuilding of agency is what matters most. Apply same to FBI and to State Department. And then it gives a bunch of other dots, I guess, representing other agencies. But then it says, any attempt to buck the system, no matter severity of crime, and they will fight back. Self-preservation, shadow game, prevent public exposure of truth. Why? People united have the power. And then it goes on here to talk about that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Q. So putting that into a nutshell, what is it saying? It's saying that these systems have been formed to subjugate us, enslave us, to make us subservient to them. This is a class of individuals who protect themselves before they protect you or me. And the regular citizens of this country, they would rather protect the cover of their criminal cohorts who are involved in all types of depravity, crime, and whether it's weapons trafficking, drug trafficking, child sex trafficking, etc., they would rather cover up those crimes than to be found guilty and have to have their whole corporation or their agency, if you will, disposed of by we the people who own and control and operate this democracy, this republic, if you will. So I just find it amazing that we haven't stood up to these people yet, because they don't own us. They don't control us. They what they do is, right, this is what they do. And I hate to say it, because, you know, we all find ourselves under the gun at some point, right? But it's like people like you and me who tell the truth and try to get the word out there. We become victims of this massive criminal enterprise, right? They'll target us. They'll attack us. They'll try to cut us down. They'll try to take us out, and they'll try to silence us because we pose the biggest threat to them, because we have a voice. That's why you see the big tech censors shut down our channels. That's why you see the corrupt politicians attack us on Capitol Hill. That's why you see the mainstream media villainize us and write lies about us all the time. It's because they are so entrenched in their criminal mafia-like organizations that they can't see what's happening around them. And they truly do believe that you are subservient, that I am subservient, that anyone who is not a part of their little club out in Washington, D.C. is a subservient person to their, you know, government, which they have controlled for so long. So tyranny like hell is not easily conquered. And that's what Q says, and I agree with it 100%. And speaking of which, the next post here is a Twitter link that Q gives us, where it talks about the clip I showed you at the beginning of this video, where it talks about, it's about time that something happens. It's enough. We've got plenty of information on these crooks, and they're just a bunch of crooks. And that's President Trump's own words. And you saw that at the beginning of this video. So Q says, marathon end, Q. And I know October is going to be where we're going to have huge stories coming out, because traditionally before an election, October is the month where you launch these things, because you have to awaken the people to what's happening, especially in this case where really, you know, it's funny when you see all these celebrities and, you know, news figures saying, you know, vote like your life depends on it. What they really should be saying is vote like their life depends on it, because at the end of the day, that's really the truth. And that's what they're trying to, why they're trying to lie to you and deceive you at the rate that they are now. So the next thing here is on the Q board. It's a bunch of clips put together by an anon here that are very telling. First of all, you have the Department of Justice put out this statement from the Southern District of New York, where it says the Honorable Robert Lehrberger is coming out and saying, or is being written to, I should say, from Audrey Strauss, where she has informed the court that she'll be leaving the United States Attorney's Office. Okay. Interesting. The next thing here is, hold up. The U.S. Attorney of the Southern District of New York steps down, and Lucas Isaaccroft steps in. But it just so happens that this is James Comey's son-in-law, who's married to his daughter, Maureen. Listen, guys, I hate to break the news here, but is this like a fiefdom in a kingdom or something, where it's the sons and daughters who take over for their parents when they leave? I mean, the idea that the FBI and the Department of Justice are just infiltrated by the Comeys, which we know James Comey is one of the most corrupt and lawless people who have ever been involved in a high-ranking position in government, I would say, in the past at least couple decades. And now his family is involved in overseeing things inside of our government in the Department of Justice. This isn't like having Jared Kushner be a special advisor, which is, you know, with Donald Trump, or Ivanka Trump, you know, helping out with certain campaign issues. This is like Donald Trump going and naming the next Attorney General Donald Trump Jr. I mean, this is literally what it's like, but nobody seems to care, except for, I guess, we the people who are observing this whole farce as it happens. But of course, his daughter, in addition to being a daughter of Comey and Failer, Maureen attracted attention when she became the lead prosecutor in the case against Jeffrey Epstein, who was accused of being involved in insane sex trafficking rings. And Maureen was a student of the College of William and Mary, then attended Harvard Law School following the footsteps of her parents. And this is the part that matters. Maureen is also fulfilled in her private life. She is married to Lucas Issacharoff. Wow. Well, that's fascinating. And then, of course, it goes into here, their profiles and connecting it all together. But what's Q saying here? Q's responding to this anon saying, eyes on, follow the family. So you see here for yourself that it's all in the family, right? James Comey launches a coup against the president. President Trump exposes Jeffrey Epstein. Somehow, some way, the daughter of James Comey and her husband, James Comey's son-in-law, take over Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein's case. Are you starting to see a trend here in how the deep state protects itself, how it literally is all in the family? There is no even illusion of justice or impartiality here. We have a lying, cheating, leaking director of the FBI who literally helped stage a coup against the sitting president, who has his family members now overseeing the prosecution of probably the biggest name that's publicly known, at least, as far as sex trafficking and blackmail in our U.S. government. And we're just supposed to go, oh, yeah, that's fine. Nothing to see here. Just move along. That's what they want. Because, of course, here in the next post from Q, and Anon puts up this, talking about James Comey's daughter inspected missing Epstein suicide footage. So let me get this straight. The same guy, James Comey, who's lied in front of Congress multiple times, he leaked all the information to the press, even though he won't admit it, and now he's has his daughter who I mean, you've seen pictures of his family, and he's openly talked about how his family's been anti-Trump from day one. His daughter is investigating Jeffrey Epstein's missing suicide footage. Guys, if you think this is on the level, let me tell you what, I got 12 bridges to sell to you tomorrow. But the Anon says Comey's daughter investigated Epstein's suicide, and her husband does Ghislaine Maxwell's case, like with 4 question marks. Like, yeah, okay. It says, do you believe in coincidences? Q. No, I don't. And I also think this is corrupt as it gets, and I think this is a part of the system that's been in place, right? They go to Harvard, they go to Yale, they get in the Skull and Bones, they get in all those secret fraternal organizations, or whatever they are, and then they end up working to help the globalists destroy this country from within or take it over and enrich themselves further. That's what this all is, right? It's the positions of power being controlled by a very select few of elites who want to subjugate and make the entire population subservient to them. And as Hillary Clinton would say, make you come to heel, right? And I know she was referring to, I guess, the African-American community, presumably in that comment, but that's what they think of you and me. We're literally just subservient sheep to them. We are meant to be controlled by their offspring and their ilk, right? Maureen Comey. So James Comey is enriching himself at the taxpayer dollar. Peter Comey is enriching himself and involved in all types of things, which is his brother. You have his daughter Maureen and her husband involved in all this. These people think they control us. They think they own us. They are the enemy of the people. They need to be brought to justice immediately. They need to be put on trial for treason against this nation. And I will not back down from that because I believe that's the truth. So speaking of which, we go to Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. As Facebook says, as part of its recent crackdown on QAnon, it's began removing 6,500 groups belonging to 300 organizations. Of course, why not, right? And it gives a link to the article here, if you want to read it, but it connects to this article, which is talking about Facebook removed more than 6,500 militia groups and pages. Well, why would they remove the militia groups? Because read the Second Amendment of the United States of America in the Constitution. Here, I'll read it for you. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But I guess Facebook is above the Constitution, so they're going to infringe upon the right of our country's citizens to develop and maintain well-regulated militias. Doesn't that sound completely authoritarian, nightmarish, Orwellian, whatever you want to call it? Yeah, I think it does. And it tells you everything you need to know. And Hughes just says information warfare. So yeah, you can go read through all this stuff. Obviously, I'll leave links to all these articles. And they're trying to shut down our ability to form militias, which is protected by the Second Amendment. So first they try to shut down our speech. That's the First Amendment. Then the Second Amendment is the right to have a well-regulated militia, which now they're trying to shut down. Why? Because I guess if we all get together and decide that these people are treasonous traitors who committed sedition and should be put on trial for their crimes against our country, then we outnumber them substantially. So they're going to use any means necessary to shut us down. That seems to be what's happening here, but who knows? You tell me, right? The next one here talks about the Catholic Church, and, you know, it goes right into this major story here. We have rebuffed by Vatican, Pompeo assails China and aligns with Pope's critics. So finally, we have a Secretary of State with an administration who's going to stand up to the Catholic Church, because we know what the Catholic Church did. They sold indulgences. The Protestant Revolution came out of the corruption in the Catholic Church, which has not stopped since that time. They've been involved in scandal after scandal after scandal, and they're not a Christian organization, in my opinion. They are a totalitarian regime that is seeking to undermine sovereignty of other nations in order to build its own wealth and power, whereas you have this disjointed, basically, Protestant revolution, which came from it, of people who want to believe in Christ and want to preach the word and want to evangelize in the gospel. That's not what the Catholic Church is about. And I'm not saying that regular Catholics, if you guys are out there and you're Catholic, I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking the system that is built around your infrastructure as far as Catholicism goes. I mean, if you think that the Pope endorsing China and slave labor and ignoring the abuse scandals that happen in the church and doing all of the criminal things that they've done over the last who knows how many years, centuries, etc., if you think you can just ignore that, then I'm sorry. But reading this clip that's been given to us, Pope Francis declined to see Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is demanding a harder Vatican line on China. Of course, why not? Right? China doesn't even allow free religion. China is literally taking Catholic priests and other higher ranking Catholic clergy and throwing them out of their country or put them in prison in some ways and places. But it says the Holy See said meeting just before a U.S. election would be inappropriate. Of course it would. Why would the Catholic Church want to side with America when America stands for freedom and the Catholic Church, the Catholic Empire, wants to enslave their subjects? You are subjugated to the Pope. You are subservient to the Pope. And if you want to believe he is whatever on earth, good for you. I don't believe it, and I'm not going to live my life based on him being some infallible guy when everything he does is the antithesis of what I believe a Christian would do. So I'm just saying it, throwing it out there. But in Rome here, it says Secretary of State Mike Pompeo recently published a sharp letter excoriating the Vatican's plan to renew an agreement with the Chinese government on church operations in China. It says he promoted the article in a tweet concluding the Vatican endangers its moral authority should it renew the deal, which I think is 100% correct. It goes on to talk about an indignant Vatican took the article more as calculated affront than a diplomatic gesture. The friction broke into the open on Wednesday as Mr. Pompeo arrived in Rome and met with prelates and others who are hostile to Pope Francis. So what ends up happening is you see that Mike Pompeo went there and started meeting with his dissidents, the people who think the Pope is acting in an immoral way that's against everything that Christianity stands for, which I believe is 100% true, and he's being basically cast out from the conversation. So here's the thing you got to understand, guys, is that, like I said, again, I'm not targeting or going after people who are Catholic. I'm telling you right now, though, that if you believe the Catholic Church is acting in a Christian manner, then you are sorely mistaken. And they're going to lead you down a path that is going to end up, in my opinion, toward hell if you keep believing that. But hey, believe what you want. This is America, right? It still is, at least under President Trump. You can still believe what you want. I guess Pompeo asked to meet the Pope, who turned him down because Francis had clearly said he doesn't receive political figures ahead of the election. Yeah, okay, whatever. But some observers on both sides, the tensions between the Roman Catholic Church and the Trump administration, Mr. Pompeo's visit is as much about the coming presidential election as about China policy. So ask yourself this: why is the Pope, who's supposedly a Christian, siding with an authoritarian regime that believes in atheism and godlessness and basically opposes all forms of religion aside from worshiping the state as its religious figure? Because remember, in China, you worship Xi Jinping as God, and you worship Mao Zedong as the preceding God. And there is no religion that's publicly endorsed or accepted by the state, which, a lot of these atheist liberals out there will go, oh, that's great, separation of church and state, except for the fact that when you do try to get together and have a church a congregation, you'll actually be targeted by the state and you'll be hurt for those, beliefs. I know people, believe it or not, close to my family who lived in China, worked in China, and had to worship in underground churches in China, because if you publicly pronounce your faith for Jesus Christ, you will be targeted. You will be thrown in prison, or you will be basically thrown out of the country as it is. But the Pope's really working hard to make that deal with China. What do you think they're trying to do? Maybe Catholicism is based on authoritarianism, and it's not really based on Christianity, perhaps. I mean, in the sense of the Roman sense. I mean, not talking about the American Catholic Church, because I'd like to make that difference, that the American Catholic Church is based in a lot of the founding principles of Christianity, and I respect that. But when we talk about Roman Catholic and then we talk about China, it's a whole different deal. So Q says this: when does a church become a playground? When does it become a business? When does a church become political? When does a church become corrupt, and when does it become willfully blind, and when does a church become controlled? So remember, I've talked about this in the past before. I think about maybe 6 months, a year ago, we were talking about the Catholic Church and how it's basically a cartel that is involved in controlling the global movement of money, and that they think that through that, because they've had this control for so many years, that they can control the whole world. So what they do is they watch, right? That's why they call it the Holy See, SEE. They see everything. They see all the trade routes. They see all the maritime movement, and then they make calculated decisions for investment based on those movements. And that's how they control you. That's how they subjugate you. That's how they continue to stay in power and stay wealthy beyond anybody's wildest imagination. And that's why it's run by somebody who I believe is a corrupt, not good person. The next one here: the hunt is on. Hunters become the hunted. The Red October has begun. Today is October 1st. And this is our report of that beginning. Now, with that, I'm going to go to a few things here. You have the former CEO, or the former chief executive at Twitter, saying, "Me first capitalists who think you can separate society from business are going to be the first people lined up against the wall and shot in the revolution. I'll happily provide video commentary." This is what you're up against in Twitter. This is what you're up against with these big tech tyrants. These people are authoritarian fascists, and they pretend that they're just, we're just, you can't separate business from society, or else we'll line you up against the wall and we'll take you out. Yeah, okay. Yahoo News here talking about Mojo Vision, and this is an important article because think about this. Back in January, we found about this company that makes smart contact lenses, and a lot of people have been speculating that was possibly what was giving Joe Biden the answers in the debate without an earpiece. And of course here, Presidential Debates Commission has picked a former Biden intern to moderate the Trump-Biden presidential debate upcoming. Oh, of course. Well, that seems totally fair. That seems completely reasonable that we start with Chris Wallace, who is debating on behalf of Joe Biden, to one of his former interns. I'm sure this is going to be full of factual information and not a bunch of lies. Speaking of Chris Wallace, his father, mind you, was mentioned inside, or was noted inside of the Epstein, black book, interestingly enough. And calls now are coming out for Joe Rogan to moderate the next debate, which will never happen. But I think President Trump should play this up, because ultimately what it's going to do is show that Joe Biden's afraid of objective people stepping in and having the ability to moderate the debate. So, because President Trump, basically every debate he has from here on out, including the one with Chris Wallace before, is going to be a 2-on-1 debate where it's going to be the moderator and Joe Biden against President Trump. It may be 3-on-1 if you have more than one moderator. The debate commission is adding an option to cut candidates' mics. Yeah. So now it's like, if President Trump says something they don't like, boop, they're going to hit the mute button and you're never going to hear from him again. Yeah, that sounds fair. As more bad news is coming out for Joe Biden, Google searches on Hunter Biden are up tenfold since last week. Well, I wonder why. Could it have something to do with the $3.5 million he got from the mayor of Moscow's wife, or his dealings in Burisma, where he was getting $180-something thousand a month, or his deal with China where he got billions of dollars to manage and made millions of dollars off of it? Perhaps. Here's another one. Corporation admits in court they bribed U.S. President Joe Biden. This one's coming out from Hal Turner radio show. So obviously, you'll have to look in this for yourself, but it seems like Burisma did in fact bribe Joe and Hunter Biden with large cash payments, according to the People's Deputy of Ukraine, which is Andrea Durkak. So yeah, do with that what you may. And memory sticks used to program Philly's voting machines were stolen from elections warehouses. So I guess we're going to have another example of voter fraud coming up here in their election. But finally, G News, which I think has been referenced on a few different news programs that are out there, maybe Newsmax and others, has come out with what I think may end up being the equivalent of the WikiLeaks email dump. And it talks about the CCP's 3 hard drives. And this is big. And I'm going to go through this real quick. It says, and remind you to take this with a grain of salt. I haven't been able to verify this. I looked around for other information. So we're just going to do what the fake news does for a second. And we're going to speculate on what this could be, except we're not going to report it as truth. I'm going to tell you up front, this is speculation. This has not been verified. But if it is verified, which is something the fake news says all the time, if it is verified, this could be the October surprise. This could be the next WikiLeaks. This could be big. But it says, on September 23rd, President Trump suddenly left the White House daily briefing for an emergency phone call. The next day, Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, was interviewed by Newsmax and said, "You will find out over the next 3 weeks, China has put so much money into Biden's family. We see some inextricable links between the two incidents out there." Meanwhile, lewd media exposed the Jiang Zemin, Zhang Zhizhong, and Meng Zhizhu, I can't say his names, so sorry, handed over 3 hard drives to some prominent figures in the U.S. in which the following information was included. Now, this is speculation. I'm saying that with a big, preface, but you do with it what you will. Video clips of Hunter Biden's sex scandals and child abuse in China. Evidence of $4.5 billion secret deal between Hunter, Secretary Xi Jinping, and Wang Zhejiang. Evidence of Hunter receiving $10 million prepaid dollars before closing the natural gas deal with Kazakhstan and Ukraine, and another $1 million as commission from Chinese Communist Party. All mentioned are stored in the first hard drive. The second hard drive contains information about where and how Xi Jinping and Wang Zhejiang hid their treasures overseas, particularly in the U.S., and their global grand strategy: keep enslaving 1.4 billion Chinese people under the totalitarian communist regime and manipulating the U.S. elections. Their ambition is more than bribing politicians of the establishment in Washington, D.C., but infiltrating every country on the planet to control the whole world, to implement their grand strategy. CCP always dreams about possessing the most advanced biological weapon in the world. Evidence of CCP's bioweapon and military civilian integration program is in the third hard drive. As COVID-19, the CCP virus, is a crucial weapon created within such programs. No wonder Dr. Li Mengyang keeps telling the world that the virus is military lab made. So think about this. I'm just putting it out there. I think this could be the next WikiLeaks. I think this could be the October surprise. I think this could be the game changer that people have been waiting for, but we'll have to wait and see if that is the truth. So again, it's purely speculation at this point, but just throwing it out there. Now that's where we're going to go ahead and leave it. I want to say thanks to everybody who's watched this. Remember to come here, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights. I want to hear what you guys have to say about everything that we covered here today, and watch these videos and share them on your social media. Get the word out that way. I'm also over here on other social media sites like Twitter, of course, at JustInformYou and at informed_news. Plus, I'm at Parler or on Parler at JustInformedTalk, and the official website for Just Informed Talk is justinformednews.com. BitChute.com/JustInformedTalk is the backup channel. And if you want to support this channel, also get the Brave browser. You can use the link in the description and download it. It's an internet browser. It blocks the ads. I use it. When you download it, you'll get it for free, and it'll make a big difference in your internet experience. I guarantee you that. So go check it out using the link in the description. And if you want to support this channel, come over here and find me on patreon.com/justinformedtalk. It's a monthly donation crowdfunding website. Your support has kept me alive through all the demonetization and everything they've thrown at me. You guys have kept this channel alive and going. So thank you for your support there. I truly appreciate it. Now, before we go, we do a segment called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace. Now it is truly greater. And today, like I said before, we're going to take a minute to talk about what it really means to understand the unrighteousness and godlessness of the world that we live in, but then to give ourselves perspective on knowing how to handle that. But here's the words I want to share. It's out of Romans chapter 1, verse 18 through 25. And it says, "For God's wrath is revealed from heaven against all godlessness and unrighteousness of people, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth." Sound familiar? "Since what can be known about God is evident among them, because God has shown it to them. From the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, that is, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood through what he has made. As a result, people are without excuse." Right? That makes sense, right? We don't have an excuse here. It says, "For though they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or show gratitude. Instead, their thinking became nonsense, and their senseless minds were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man, birds, four-footed animals, and reptiles." Think about today. Sound familiar? It says, "Therefore God delivered them over in the cravings of their hearts to sexual impurity, so that their bodies were degraded among themselves. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshipped and served something created instead of the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen." Now, I share those words with you today because it shows you the immorality and the evil and the depravity that we're up against in this world, right? Because it talks about people who basically degraded themselves to the point where they exchanged the truth of God for a lie. Does that sound familiar to you? That's the evil we're up against, right? That's what this world has come down to. That's what we're up against in the broadest sense. And I hope that you guys recognize it. And I hope that these words help you understand that in a better way, in a better light. And I hope you go read that verse for yourself and understand it, and share that with your friends and family, loved ones. And when you're trying to show them the evil that exists in this world, when you take God out of the equation, that is the evil that exists. And that's the evil that we have to overcome. And we do that by embracing Jesus Christ as our Savior, by opening that channel with Jesus and God through prayer, by saying, "Lord, come into our hearts," going to your church, getting baptized, opening your heart, helping your community, acting in a good Christian way to your fellow man and woman. And that's how you start. It's simple, but it's not easy. So that's my mission for all of you guys. Go do all those things. And remember that the evil that's in this world has been told for thousands of years now. And we have to understand that. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I want to say thanks for watching. Remember to come here, hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.